I think there are 4 clear reasons behind the recent collapse in trust in LASIK surgery. Let's get into it. The first problem is with the procedure itself. With LASIK, a surgeon cuts and lifts a flap of tissue in the cornea prior to performing the laser vision correction. The flap, which is usually 20% of your cornea, never fuses with the rest of your eye after the cut. So from that point on, it's actually in 2 parts, not the one whole part it should be. The flap itself is the fundamental problem with LASIK and the thing that leads to complications. Cutting the flap is quite hard on the corneal nerves, the ones that tell you when to blink. The nerve damage tends to result in a lower blink rate, and dry eyes are not far behind. Now you may see LASIK advertised as bladeless or all laser, then there's SMILE, small incision lenticular extraction. Don't be fooled. At the end of the day, cutting is cutting. There is a reason why they're using semantics to draw attention away from that. LASIK has one advantage though, and that's the instant healing. Often when a LASIK patient gets up off the laser bed, at that moment, that's as sharp as their vision will ever be. But all told, 46% of patients report 1 or more visual issues after LASIK, according to a major 2009 FDA study. I think this percentage is much higher now. Remember, 2009 predates the rise of social media and streaming. The dry eye issue with LASIK is only getting worse because of all the time we spend staring at screens. Look at it this way. Imagine there was any other elective procedure in your body, and there were 2 ways of doing it. The first way entailed cutting, that changes the structural integrity of that body part forever, and has a much higher risk factor, but it offers an instant recovery. The second way entails no cutting and equal or superior results, but a 5-day functional recovery. Why would anyone choose to cut? The second problem is with the industry. Here's the thing. Even though there are better options, LASIK can be fine for many people, and there are quality LASIK surgeons out there. But the LASIK industry is actively hurting LASIK and the entire conversation around laser vision correction. LASIK is an expensive, out-of-pocket procedure, so naturally there's a big corporate interest in selling it to more and more people, even when they aren't great candidates, and despite mounting evidence that there are safer alternatives. I call this the LASIK industrial complex. Quantity, not quality, is often the main priority at LASIK mills owned by large corporations. This means a much higher risk threshold for who they are willing to operate on. It means one surgeon performing dozens of surgeries per day. It means never hearing from your surgeon again after the operation. It means patient care being routinely delegated to non-MD employees in the interest of profits. Not all LASIK clinics fit the criteria of being a LASIK mill, but considering the corporate takeover of so many LASIK clinics in the US, it can be easy to fall into the trap without even knowing it. The third problem is the government and media scrutiny. In December 2022, the FDA shocked the ophthalmology world by announcing it would consider slapping a warning label on LASIK, which is to say LASIK practices would be urged to walk patients through a checklist of potential complications prior to surgery. Even though the FDA's proposed guidelines are still under consideration, this announcement shined the media spotlight on the LASIK risks and complications and handed a megaphone to critics of LASIK. Many of these critics are well-respected doctors who have been warning patients about LASIK for many years. Less than a year after the FDA news, the FTC fined a major national LASIK chain for bait-and-switch advertising. The fine was just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the LASIK industry's aggressive marketing and sales tactics. You can see how these 2 major news stories would whip up a wave of negative sentiment and potentially turn the tide against LASIK. The fourth problem is Gen Z. This is a big one, guys. Beyond the pending FDA action, beyond the FTC fine, beyond the media scrutiny, beyond everything else, the biggest reason LASIK is losing its edge as the most popular form of laser vision correction is actually Gen Z. The vast majority of people get laser eye surgery in their 20s and early 30s. At my practice, the average patient age is about 26. So this means LASIK practices and their ad agencies are now really trying to convince Zoomers and younger millennials to get LASIK. And I think that's proving a hard sell. Gen Z grew up on the internet and social media. They don't trust traditional marketing and they don't trust corporations. Above all, they seek out and value social proof in the form of verified reviews and feedback from their peers online. Typical advertising and even word of mouth from a family member isn't going to cut it for them. They're going to do the research themselves. I think this new paradigm represents a major threat to LASIK in general and especially to LASIK mills who tend to have bad reviews. And now, influencers who had a negative experience with LASIK are starting to jump on video and live streams to share their story in vivid detail. These videos can have a powerful persuasive effect, both negative and positive, since they get boosted by algorithms and are obviously not critically reviewed or fact-checked.